is a New York militia jacket, standard issue for the start of the war, for most New York militias. Oftentimes they were private purchase. What we got here is 5.77 Enfield rifled musket, and this here was generally imported from Europe, generally to the Confederate States, but a couple Union units managed to acquire them through a more, I won't say dishonorable way, but we'll get to that another time. This here is the lifeblood of just about every Union and Confederate soldier. Coffee. Chunky, chewable, and I want to say delicious, but that depends on how you take it. The government, where they get it, I don't know. But I don't know. The officer says, "Here's the rations. Get them to the men." There they are.
Manufacturing for weapons. Who's the principal manufacturer?
Principal manufacturer?
Yeah.
Which weapons are we referring to?
Start with the handgun.
Handgun? Well, there was two primary ones. There was Colt, and then there was Remington. Colt was sort of the one that got the Army contract. Remingtons were a little more private purchase. Reason for the Colt was, I believe they came around earlier than Remington, and they were cheaper to manufacture. Remingtons, however, they were a little more functional. They could withdraw the cylinder without having to take apart the whole pistol. And they could, generally they were more useful all around. Yes.
Okay, so the Remington was more reliable?
Matter of fact, yes. 1 minute. Let me pull one out for you.
Okay.
Okay, this is a Remington. Now, I wouldn't say they were more reliable, but in order to change out the cylinder, you didn't need to take off the barrel, which was a big plus on the battlefield. Pop it out, pull the fresh one, get it in place, get the pin, you're ready to go.
What's the thing that was what's it used
this?
for? Yeah.
This is sort of a plunger.
Oh yeah.
Basically, you put your powder in, and if you're doing live fire, wax, maybe a patch, and then you've got a slightly larger lead ball. Now what you do with that is you put it on top of the cylinder, and then you ram it home. That should put the ball in and leave a nice little lead ring out there. That way ensures there's going to be no real chain fire, and the damn pistol won't blow up in your hands if all goes according to plan and if you do it right.
On rifles.
Rifles.
Who was the main producer?
The main producer, I believe, for the Union at least, was Springfield. Those guys have got, again, I could be wrong, I'm kind of brain farting on this right now because I just got back from battle and a little bit brain fried right now. But Springfield got, I believe, the contract for the main rifles, and thus got most of the rifles out for the Union. Early on the war, there was 1816s, but those were originally flintlocks, and there was a ton of them pre-war. But the Union ran into a lot of issues with it, as did the Confederates. For one, they weren't compression caps like we see here. They were originally flintlock. So because they were flintlock, they were obsolete at the time of the Civil War. So they were smoothbore. Yeah, they were smoothbore muskets.
Yeah,
and basically obsolete. But the U.S. government, being the U.S. government, they're not going to turn away perfectly good firearms. So they're going to automatically incorporate it. And a lot of them were either pre-war sold off to European Crimea War, or but that didn't work out too well. So they ended up selling them to Italy. And then a lot of those also ended up back in the United States for the Civil War. So we had a lot of conversions from flintlock to percussion. First ones, instead of having the percussion cap to the side, they had it on top. However, due to it was a flintlock conversion, there was a bit of a weak point in here, so the weapon would blow up. So they decided to do away with that, and they moved it off to the side, more towards the where the flintlock was. They added a screw and a bit more steel, and it reinforced and didn't blow up. However, they were still smoothbore, so they were not accurate.
When did the groove?
I think it started. The rifling started about 1842, I believe. Again, could be wrong.
And that was Springfield also.
Yeah, Springfield. But the closest thing to that was also the Enfield as well. You'll find in history there's a lot of times Springfield and Enfield, they're oftentimes competing with more or less the same kind of rifle. Springfield and Enfield, for instance, this 5.77 could also take a 58. However, if they were to take 58, that fouling is it's gonna mess it up. It's gonna make it a lot more difficult to load. Whereas if they take a 5.77 caliber mini ball, a little less fouling, a little less chance of it jamming. But the standard issue was about a 58 caliber for the Union. So,
in terms of accuracy.
In terms of accuracy?
Yeah.
In terms of accuracy, I want to say the best way to explain it would be to explain kind of what happened at Bull Run. Out at Bull Run, there were times troops got up close. I mean, Napoleonic lines close. And then there were units with rifles. And they realized those rifles did a lot more damage than smoothbores. So throughout the war, we had to end up changing things up. We had to go further away. We had to go adapt to trenches to get things. But basically, by the time Antietam rolled around, there was, I think, damn near 23,000 casualties, I think. Again, I could be wrong. Going off of what I remember and what my brain fry is going on. But that should sum up about the accuracy. From smoothbore, when there was just a few hundred casualties per battle, to a few thousand.
Thank you.
Yeah. And